None. All right, let's go down to the agenda. Item A on the agenda is the science textbook adoption.
A 6-year adoption, but because of COVID and pushing out, and they allowed us to do 2 years of ELA adoption, so everything is off track. In that textbook line, that will not just be science. When you look at the budget, that will not just be science textbooks, but we are going to have to do 2 years of social studies due to the fact that those gap years. And then we're also looking at a few ELA materials for our incoming kindergarten. We're probably going to have to buy some extra materials there. So.
Well, Tammy, just with that, the English materials, and it has a lot of little readers and things. I've been using them for several years, and those get worn and lost and things like that too.
So the science curriculum, it was unanimous. School-wide for the Salvis. That was the choice that they liked. Some of the reasons they like the program is because that is what we're going with for math. And so the platforms will be the same, and it'll be it'll be similar to adopt and to use.
Kindergarten, first and second, I noticed was digital only, correct?
So right now it's very hard to get science in with K2 because the push is to do ELA and math. So if we would have bought science kits, which we're talking about $4,000 per teacher, which is very expensive, and we feel like we can probably do the kits ourselves with the money. Salvis offers a correlation guide that they can use with their Amplify materials, which is their ELA materials. So they can teach some of those science standards using their ELA curriculum.
Biology, chemistry, and physics at the high school, correct?
Yes. And the difference really between the two, the high school is all hardback books plus digital. Your 3 through 8, they're all of the consumables for books. But the high school, the only option there is the hardback books, and it comes with the digital along with it.
Board members, any more questions?
And there will be an expense of some teacher materials too.
Yes.
Because we need like 7 sets for 3rd grade, and we would only get so many free. So there's a little bit of cost for that too, so that every teacher has the materials they need to.
Training comes with it also.
Training has not been discussed yet, but for Salvis, they did offer training
Yes.
with the math.
The other thing is it is very similar. So hopefully those who have taught math, Salvis math, it is very similar to that. So.
Any other questions? I don't believe they can go to consent because we're spending the money. So the second thing are the budget amendments. Thank you, ladies.
Madam Chairman, there are 9 amendments this month. There are restrictions and explanations at the bottom of each one of those. If you'd like to have Dr. Bell elaborate on the
Board, let's look at these one by one, please. Amendment 1, it's to do with leaps. Do you have any questions? Then let's go to Amendment 2.
is where we increase the textbook line to account for the science materials and all the other materials. Also, the state retirement line changed a little bit, and I highlighted it in purple just so you all would see that we did change it from what you all saw the last time we met. And that was just where we were checking and rechecking all the formulas and things, and I noticed an error, a line that was left out, and I fixed that state retirement line. So anything that is changed that you all don't already know about is highlighted in purple on these budget sheets. And I'll be happy to explain any of the rest of it. if
And
you want.
Madam Chair, once again, I am asking that we raise this, instead of $2,000, that we allot our teachers $4,000, because we have those who are looking at retirement, and their retirement is based on their 5 highest years. So, it is long penalized them in that we can give them this money now. We do not have to wait for another year or 2 years. It is something, I feel strongly that they deserve. So I'm asking that that be put on the agenda tonight and that we change that in this budget.
If I understand Robert's rules correctly, since we have already made a motion and passed a motion to go to the 2,000, the first thing that we would need to do would be to have a motion to reconsider that motion on the amount of the salary, and then we would need to have a second on that reconsideration and vote yes or no whether or not we would wish to reconsider. If that passes, then we will entertain the motion as what you're talking about to increase the amount to $4,000 and proceed normally.
Then I certainly will follow those guidelines during the meeting and make that motion.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Gertie, some time ago, we talked about CTE director. If you remember a couple meetings ago, I think it's supposed to be on page 15, line 104, 7214. And I'm just wondering if that is included in the proposed budget.
We are proposing next year to have the third administrative position filled at the high school. And that will be one of their administrative responsibilities like it's been in the past.
I think we discussed some time ago to have a CTE director's position, is that correct?
I don't remember that.
So that's attached to one of these assistant principal salaries. That's attached to one of these assistant principal salaries in line 139 of 72410. So that's 2 salaries, and the CTE director will be done by one of those 2 assistant principals at high school.
I think what we talked about is a full-time CTE director a couple meetings ago, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that what we talked about? I can't remember if there was a vote or not. It may have been in the budget work. So I guess what you're saying is it's not in there. It's not in the principal.
There's not another position besides these 2 assistant principal positions at the hospital in this budget.
So one of the assistants will be the CTE director. I got that line. Correct.
As it is now, yes, but I think what we discussed is having a full-time CTE director.
Okay.
Discussed that again.
So do you want to, are you saying you want a CTE director and 2 assistant principals, or you want 1 assistant principal and 1 CTE director?
CTE. I think that's what we discussed, a CTE director.
And 1 assistant principal?
Yes. That may not be in a meeting with emotion.
Okay. Well, the money is in the budget, we'll just have to put it in a different line of that. what the board.
And the money is already planned there for the
It's-
salary?
It's in that, there's 2 salaries in the
Okay.
assistant principal line, so if you want to reclassify it as a CTE director, we just need to move
Okay,
that salary to a different part of the budget.
all right. Any other questions about the budget?
So we will make sure I understand.
Okay.
Line 139, you have 2 positions, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
One of those, if we get it, if we get it passed, one of those can be a CTE full-time position as a director. And one of them would be an assistant principal. Is
It
that
was a supervisor, which everybody else is.
a supervisor?
There's enough
Correct.
money in that line to do that, yes. Because those assistant principal,
You would have to move that to another department, correct?
yeah, we'll have to move it out of this, out of 72410 into 71300, but the money is already figured in the budget, it just needs to be moved.
So we want a full-time CTE director and only 2 admin at the high school, right?
That's what we talked about, I think, in the workshop. CTE director, full-time.
What would be that salary?
Well, the salary that's figured in here right now is an 11-month salary, so the only change would be, is if that's intended to be on the supervisor pay scale, it would be a 12-month salary, so that would cause it to be a 1 month's increase to what's in there already.
Miss Hilton? Miss Hilton?
Yes.
At the high school, you're up here and you're over all of this. Do you feel like it needs to be a full-time position as, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, I mean, you're over all of this. Which is more valuable?
Well, it needs to either be an assistant principal that is the CTE director, and that's what they do, or a CTE director. Either way, it's going to be the same job. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that person will be CTE.
But will that give you the help that you need as far as, I mean, is that person going to help? When you have people that have.
Well, if the assistant principal right now would not be doing CTE, so that would mean she would do discipline and other things. You know what I mean? Do more of those things. So I guess it's just, if you want it to be CTE director, then it needs to be moved back to that, and that's what that person will do. And then we'll have an assistant principal.
Well, I just felt like you knew more about this
Yeah.
than the rest of us. You're here every day, and you're the one that's going to be working with the person, so I feel like you're in the state where
Yes.
you know what you felt like we needed more.
Yeah. Either way, it takes care of that CTE part. And which CTE director too, I mean, they can still help with, that CTE director can still help with evaluations. They don't have to be the administrative part. So that would be helpful too. So they would help do the evaluations in CTE. And there's a lot of data now that goes along with that. So either way you name it, that's what they're going to be doing. So I guess it just depends on if you want to call it CTE director or assistant principal, but it'll be the same. Am I saying that correct? Yes, it'll be the same role. Yeah.
The only difference would be, is it between 11 months and 12 months, that's the only thing.
I think it would be the same as the assistant principal.
Well,
That's
assistant
11
principal
months.
is 11
I
months.
think it would be the same, but
Okay.
unless
So-
there's stipulations, that CTE has to be 12 months. Sort of the way the ag used to be.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
So it's not going to cost us any more money to change it today. It's going to be just moved out of that line to another line, if we leave it like that.
That one.
Any other questions on the budget?
The only thing I could say about CTE being 11 months or 12 months is the meetings. Because there are required meetings for CTE even during the summer. So I don't know if, they can work days around that or whatever, but the CTE conference, and there's still those mandatory meetings during the summer. So that's a little bit
20 days.
different.
Can't do it 20 days regardless of June or July, right?
Yes.
Any other questions about the budget?
Can I say one thing about this summary page? So it's page 2 on the front of the budget. So at the top where we budgeted revenue, so this is a very safe budgeting of revenue. We obviously cannot predict exactly how much revenue that we'll take in. For example, last year we budgeted $16.9 million of revenue and we took in almost $20 million of revenue. So this is a very modest budget. Like this is kind of worst case scenario, what you're looking at of revenue. But we don't want to over budget revenue and then not get it, and then it puts us in a worse financial position than what we're, and then of course, this number at the bottom is assuming that we spend every dollar that is budgeted, which we don't typically do. I'm talking about the excess source use of funds down here, which if you look back the previous years, if this is how it actually ended up, we would have cut into the fund balance every year, and we all know that we have not done that. We've actually added to the fund balance. So this is like worst case scenario kind of stuff. If we only get this much in, and if we spend every dime, it's kind of hard to understand.
All right, we have been told before about was it $160,000 where they miscalculated some funds the state did? Is that, am I remembering that correctly?
That's federal money.
Okay, totally federal, so it has
that's not
nothing to do
this.
with, okay.
There's no federal money. Also, there's no federal money budgeted in here at all.
Okay.
So we don't put that on here.
All right.
What's the percentage of local?
I'm sorry.
What is the percentage of local right now?
So there, the maintenance of effort for local is $2.7 million.
What percentage is that? It used to be around 15%.
Hang on just a second. Give me 1 second and I'll figure it out.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun.
Might have done this backwards, but it won't work. Yeah, 15.8%.
Any other questions about the budget? Are we ready to put it aside for right now? Next item on the agenda is the Tennessee Strong Youth Summit Field Trip requested by Ms. Boyd. Do you have any questions for her?
How many students are you taking?
Right now, we have 9. I'm hoping for 15. We took 9 last year, was our very first year to do it. And so I'm hopeful we'll get 15. That'd be great. She said she thought we'd have 20. I said, that'd be great. But, yeah.
Any questions about that?
July 13th.
That is one item that can go up under consent, I believe, so it would, D would become B under consent.
Chairman, I would recommend that the board go home and approve this, and they can let you know. We need to have a special meeting tonight, and I can talk after the fact. I think we need to look at the things before we make a decision on the hearing about this.
All right. Anything that board members you would like to add to the agenda? I have one item, and I passed that out earlier. That was a sample of a director's evaluation that I received from TSBA. We can discuss that at the meeting. Any other items, Margaret? I have your reconsider motion. Anything else, anybody?
Is for him to put his vacation on the calendar.
His vacation on calendar.
Yeah. Mr. Durley put his vacation on the calendar.
Anything else to add to the agenda?
Ms. Phyllis, this doesn't need to be added to the agenda, but I wanted to ask Dr. Durley if it was okay if I talked about this before the meeting was over. There's a lot of, we're getting a lot of information about the ESSER money. You all have probably seen it too, where in the state of Tennessee, $94 million was left unspent by districts. And so we kind of put together, just so there's no confusion. So out of ESSER 1, 2, and 3, we were awarded $8,325,899.46. Of that, we returned $511.30. So we returned $282 of ESSER 1, $127 of ESSER 2, and $102 of ESSER 3. So we were not the cause of the $94 million not being spent, and we really would have liked them to give us the $94 million and we could spend it for them. So I have, like on doors and windows, that would be great. I have a little bit, we've kind of put together, Beth put together for us. So our total allocation for ESSER 1, 2, and 3 was $8.3 million. Of that $8.3 million, we spent $5.8 million on academics. So, that's anything, textbooks, teacher salary, not teacher salaries, but tutoring, just academic things. We spent,
we did pay the salaries of an RTI, district RTI coordinator out of that. We paid the salaries of some instructional coaches and things of that out of that while we had those funds also.
So one of the ways that we were able to make sure we spent all of our ESSER funds, ESSER is different than all the other federal money. Most federal money, you have to get approval for it first and then spend it and then get reimbursed for it. ESSER allowed us to spend some of it, and then we could go back. The whole time we had ESSER money, we could go back until to the beginning of when ESSER started and repay ourselves for things. So at the end, when we wanted to make sure we spent all of our money, we went into 141 and took some salaries and repaid ourselves from ESSER to make sure that we did not return any money. We really didn't want to return $511, but when we were up to the end, so one of the last things we did were doors at Swiss. And we were right up to the end. Now, had they gotten put in a little bit earlier, or 2 weeks earlier, we could have rebudgeted that $511, got it approved by the state, and not sent it back either. But it's just, it was a time thing. So on capital projects, of all that money, we spent $5 million on capital projects. So it was about, it was a little less than half, which the rules for ESSER was you had to spend 50% of it on academics if you were going to be a best for all district, which we were, which also gave us additional funds that we were able to spend on academic things too. So I just didn't, we knew that that was going to be in the news and people were going to be talking about that, and we just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we spent all of our $8.3 million minus $511.
How much on capital? You said about 5?
Capital is $5,046,599.60.
Okay, so on academics, how much?
It was, oh, that's too much, but
Yeah.
that's more than,
Yeah, that gets it
Yeah.
to 10.8.
yeah, something is added on here twice.
Okay.
No, so that's the academic, because that's the total of those.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, 2.9 for academics. So it's 50% of ESSER 3 had to be spent on academics. And so, also, these are like big buckets of money that we just kind of, like, oh, this is academic. If you want a more specific breakdown, we have that. It's just, I just wanted to kind of make sure everybody didn't think that we returned money, because we tried desperately not to do that.
There was 225,458.64 that was also spent on technology that would apply to academics also, in addition to the academic amount that was listed there.
And then we have like health services, we spent quite a bit of money on nursing supplies and supplies for nurses.
PPE, cleaning, when we were having to disinfect everything every day and they were sending us all the cleaning materials and things like that. There was over $136,000 spent on that sort of thing, and nurses supply, nurses software, so that we could track students and contact trace and things of that nature also.
Well, thank you for doing such a great job. Would you, at this time, would you also like to talk about the good audit report?
I would love for y'all to know that we had no audit findings on our audit report for the school department. I don't know when the last time is that we didn't have an audit finding. I haven't gone back and looked, but I know for the last several years we've had at least one audit finding, and we had none, which I'm super proud of.
Probably another historical moment.
Also, as I drove in, did anybody else besides me look towards the football field?
Yes.
I had to smile as I did that. They may be ready for graduation after all. What do y'all think?
They're moving quick. Most of that happened today.
Yeah.
The weather will cooperate.
That was what I was thinking also, if the weather would cooperate. But the bleachers are looking fine. There had been in the past, somebody mentioned to me, a sewage problem at Swiss, but that's been corrected, right, Dr. Darrell?
I think you've got a historical sewage problem at Swiss. As far as the overall correction of it, the immediate correction was taken care of this past 2 weeks, but you've got some ongoing issues that have been there for a significant amount of time.
Is there a new solution that's hopefully coming?
That would need to come before the board. I think that would require the assistance from the group of engineers. We would possibly have to discuss that with Upland. The repair of those pipes, the internal components, due to the age and probably the material in which the piping is made out of, you'd probably be looking at some recasting or some other things that would be a significant cost to the district. So that would probably need to be a discussion centered around capital improvements that we need to have together as a board.
You told me those were old iron pipes, is that correct? Did I remember correctly what those sewage pipes are?
From what I've had the experience of working on, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we may be looking at doing that. Also, we received an email about TISA money and how that they changed the date. Does anybody, and TISA money had to be spent by a certain date, and they changed it to March the 28th or something like that.
That was Esther.
I asked her, okay.
So
and
originally-
I checked with Dr. Gurley, I called him, and again, thank you all, because I understand we were free and clear long before March the 28th,
So
correct?
originally, they gave us the opportunity to get an extension to spend extra money if you had a capital project, if, you know, because it was sometimes hard to get materials and stuff. So the state and the Fed said, you know, you can apply for an extension and get an extension, which we did apply for an extension just to be safe. We didn't need it. We ended up, it was January. So we finished our work in January. And it was supposed to be done by December. So our extension, it was like $2,000 was all that we had left to finish up our work. So they came back, the federal government came back and said, we were just kidding, you can't have an extension. So everybody that had applied for an extension lost that. I mean,
Lost the money.
Lost the money. But we'll probably still have to pay
Because they're in
because they're under
contracts.
contracts with, I mean, I would assume. So, not us though. That's why I wanted everyone to know that we weren't in that.
Thank you.
That did not affect us.
The reason we needed the extension to begin with was because of Hurricane Helene. Our door vendor was called out of work in that area from the hurricane, and that postponed it with getting the materials.
Did the ESSER money pay for the bleachers?
No,
The football bleachers?
No.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
141 pays for the football bleachers. That was voted on by the board. The board voted.
I just couldn't remember.
Anything else that come before the board at this time?
What about our mowing bids? Do we have any mowing bids?
Mowing bids, Dr. Carter? I think because of, we had talked about those, and I think they have come in, but because of possibly the length of this meeting, we were going to postpone it to the May meeting. That's all right. We have one person signed to speak to the board, a Mr. Roy Hale. And Mr. Hale, you will have 2 minutes, please, sir.
I was just curious if there was any change from you guys talking to your lawyer and anything about the property value.
Our attorney is willing to talk to your attorney.
Okay. There's also a volleyball tournament coming up. I do believe it's on the weekend of the 19th. I have family that has paid a lot of money to come in from California and watch my kids play volleyball that weekend. I would like it if she would have permission to come to the high school and watch that with my family.
We again will take this to our attorney, and we will ask him to get back with you
Okay.
quickly.